Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today we're jumping into some malicious compliance. Our first story today comes to us from Monkey Paw Wishes. Don't let the VP know we're over budget. Let's jump right in. This is a bit long, but several years ago I worked in the purchasing department of a large semiconductor company in the US. Mostly, I handled all the non-production purchases and contracts like office equipment, building management, travel contracts, that sort of stuff. But my biggest role was negotiating and approving temp staffing contracts for our US facilities. One day, a director, we'll call him Bill, sends me a request for $150,000 for temp workers at a small facility in the middle of nowhere, Florida. The news was that a couple of local businesses had closed, and he had this great idea to save the company money by moving some production down there and snatching up those now desperate workers on the cheap. It seemed like a bit of a dumb idea at the time, but it was clearly his pet project, and $150,000 was within his right to spend without additional approval. So I rubber stamped it and off he went. I hadn't had much interaction with Bill, but he was a pompous butt, so I was glad to get rid of him. Now, it's important to this story to understand that our company's finances were super tightly controlled. Not a bad thing, but if you wanted to spend $1 over your role's limit, you'd better have your supervisor's signature in triplicate. Directors like Bill could spend up to $250,000, VPs $500,000, and anything over $500,000 had to go all the way up to our CEO for approval. About 3 months later, the trouble starts when Bill suddenly turns back up asking for more money. Turns out, rural Florida doesn't have a lot of people with the skills to work in an industrial cleanroom, and the people who do don't come cheap. The money that was supposed to last a year is already gone, but Bill is certain that he just needs a little more time, and asks me to approve another $250,000 without telling our VP, his boss. I straight up refuse, since it's my literal job to stop this. But Bill, being God's gift to this company, throws an absolute fit. It got ugly, and long story short, my boss directly ordered me to approve Bill's money without escalating it. I got this all in writing, since it was sketchy as hell, and absolutely something I could get fired for. Finally, Bill's gone, and I don't have to see his smug, short, balding head anymore. Or so I thought. Having disrespected the great and powerful Bill, I was now the target of his displeasure. For the next 4 months, I get at least 3 emails or phone calls a day from him or his secretary about something they don't like about the building. The landscaping, the guy who brings the bottled water, the snack selection in the machine, the equipment in the sea-level gym, on and on. I'm getting openly berated for things that have nothing to do with me, but I'm stuck having to deal with them because my boss keeps caving to Bill's whims. And none of my paperwork is getting past his office either. I manage the purchasing for 12 facilities in the US and Europe, but if it needs his signature, I've got to personally bring it to him and stand there while he reviews it, or he's refusing to sign. It was somewhere between humiliating and infuriating, and I increasingly wished he'd fall down a staircase. After months of this, finally my chance for malicious compliance arrived. Shockingly, Bill hasn't managed to turn his pet project around, and what do you know, just needs $250,000 to get him through the year. I sign off, add the money to the purchase order, which now totals a cool $650,000, and shoot off an email to both him and my boss to remind them that this won't be shown to the VP. Then I print everything out, including the direct order not to show it to the VP, and march over to the CEO's office for him to sign. After all, it was now over the $500,000 required limit, and Bill never asked for him not to see it. All hell broke loose when they realized Bill's little project was $500,000 over budget. He didn't lose his job, but he refused to speak to me after that, which was exactly what I wanted. The Florida project was scrapped and was retasked to making basic electrical components. My boss was initially pissed, but once he realized my insistence on getting Bill's order in writing had probably saved both our butts, the whole thing went away. I was there for another year, and thankfully, Bill never made an appearance at my office ever again. OP, I don't understand how your boss still has a job. I mean, you're required to block orders over a certain limit unless a VP signs off, and your boss just decided to approve it and then hide it from the VP? That doesn't work. That should have been a career-ending move for your boss once it was found out. Do me a quick favor and take a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're actually not subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. This next story comes to us from Ancient Educator 76. Just sign this document that will dock you 11.5 hours. Let's jump right in. I'm a middle school teacher who speaks fluent Spanish, thanks to growing up in the West Valley. Go Suns! The fact that I'm bilingual has given me many opportunities, including one where a teacher in charge of an English language learner, ELL, important acronym for later, program gave me the opportunity to tutor students twice weekly, plus an additional 15 minutes per every hour worked as prep time. Okay, cool. So Mondays and Fridays I punch in 15 minutes before 2:20. During my 7th hour prep, then punch out at 3:30 when the kids left. No problem, right? Wrong. At the end of the year, I get an email saying I'm being docked 11.5 hours that were punched in before the end of the day. I was livid. They claimed I'm getting double paid, but I looked through everything I signed off on and didn't remember seeing any restrictions on when I was to punch in for those hours. We met in the office and the district representative had me sign this document, and she showed me the contract I signed. Nowhere did it specify when I was to punch in those hours, and I brought this to both people's attention who were present. But Federal Action Plan, FAP, office lady persisted. Just sign it, you can't get double paid. Enter malicious compliance. I signed quickly, this time using my middle name, which happens to be F this BS. It read, oh, F this BSP. I happen to know the person at District Office Savior, who will be reviewing this paperwork, and know that she'll either ask me what's up, or to have me re-sign an obvious non-signature. Like clockwork, I get a phone call on my 7th hour prep from District Office Savior. She asked why I signed like this, and why I'm being docked. I explained my working with the 2 new students who don't speak any English all year, and even teaching them both English all year. I explained that no one said anything all year, and that I'd have to make the adjustments to get paid those hours the entire school year. She, District Office Savior, says, wait a minute, you were on your prep time, right? And you're bilingual? Do you have a cert? All answers were yes. My next paycheck was $3,500 more than my standard paycheck, coming out of the FAP lady's budget for federal action plans. I was very confused at first. It appears that I can punch in during my contract hours if it is on my scheduled prep, and because I have an ELL endorsement, I got this endorsement working with monolingual students in the West Valley, and my direct supervisor on campus doesn't. I get paid as an ELL leader on campus. Quite the stipend. So what was supposed to be a $345 deduction in pay for me turned out to be 10 times greater, as a deduction from their department paid directly to me. So looks like FAP lady's right. I can't get double paid, but it looks like I can get double quintuple paid. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is the same OP that works in a fast food place to make ends meet because they're not getting paid enough as a teacher. So where are we going wrong here? Our teachers have a hard enough job as it is without getting this kind of crap from their own administration. Congrats on getting paid, and I think you owe your district office savior maybe a bottle of wine or something. This next story comes to us from Waldo06. Josh is on the grill until 11:55, so stop pestering him and do your station. Let's jump right in. Was reminded by another post about my time in fast food and how I maliciously complied. Anyways, back in college, I worked at an on-campus food place. Your basic burgers, fries, wraps, and small salads. My shift started at 11:25, doing wraps until 11:55 when Josh left, and I manned the grill and someone else did wraps. Now, Josh was a typical Josh, and it was his way or the highway. He'd get really mad when I'd throw more burgers on the grill or flip something while he was trying to chat up the dishwasher. I did this because he had no understanding of how much food was required to feed college kids during the small breaks between classes. Eventually, he complained enough that I was told, "Josh is on the grill until 11:55, so stop pestering him and do your station." So I did. I stopped touching the grill. The next shift, he leaves at 11:55, and I get on the grill and immediately throw down 40 frozen raw burger patties. 2 minutes later, the cashier starts yelling, "Where are the burgers?" Sorry, I just got on the grill, and Josh only had 5 in the warmer and 3 in the window. I know we always have about 100 students between 11:55 and 12:20, and they almost all get the burger meal, but I was told not to touch the grill. The burgers finish after a few minutes, and the next batch goes on, but the grill has cooled a little, so they take even longer. The line of kids waiting for food is longer than the line ordering, and management is pissed. I get chewed out for not being fast enough and just ask, "Do you want raw burgers or to talk to Josh?" It only took one more shift of this for them to realize that my meddling was actually what kept us afloat during the lunch rush. I'd often cook an entire grill of burgers while he was swinging and missing with the dishwasher. They eventually printed out a sheet of how many burgers and chicken etc. needed to be prepped for certain rush times, and gave Josh a very stern talking to about how to be a team player. Also, Josh sucked because he cooked all the burgers well done, like really well done. Then they'd sit in the warmer for another 5 to 15 minutes. He didn't know how to rotate either. So you were eating gosh darn hockey pucks. He ruined so much ground beef. He eventually got moved to salads and stock because he couldn't be trusted with anything that was fast-paced. Management saw how much faster everything moved when he wasn't joshing everything up. Okay, so what really got me here is, what kind of a food place schedules somebody to be done their shift right at the beginning of the lunch rush? That one I don't understand, and I think that can be chalked up to pretty crappy management. This next story comes to us from Dr. Amazing. I don't want to see your name on this list again. Let's jump right in. This story didn't personally happen to me, but it was told by someone I trust. I fully believe it to be true, but some details are slightly altered to protect privacy. A friend of mine is retired now, but back in the day, he did internal audits for a large bank. This story takes place about 30 years ago, when network computers were less common, and paperwork tended to be compiled manually. Bank managers had to submit various reports to their regional offices showing what their branches were up to, and the regional offices would occasionally send out auditors to go through the records and make sure everything was in compliance. One report that had to be filed monthly was a list of any employees who were in arrears on their own loans. Employees who had trouble managing their own credit were considered to be more at risk of stealing, fraud, or other financial crimes. So I guess the bank wanted to keep track of anyone who may fall into that category. My friend's team is doing an audit at a particular branch, going through the records and looking for any discrepancies. They find a big one. The manager of this branch has been behind on a number of loans he held with the bank, but had been leaving his own name off the report. More records are pulled, and they start looking at everything this guy has ever filed and comparing it to other records. The manager had started doing everything correctly, including himself on the report fairly regularly. At a point about 10 years previous, it suddenly stops, despite the spotty loan repayment continuing for years. Bosses of bosses are called. It's looking like they may have stumbled on years of falsified records and possibly more serious fraud. The manager is definitely getting fired, and depending on what else they find, looking at some serious criminal charges. Finally, they call the manager in to show what they found and ask for an explanation. The manager produces a letter from someone higher up in the bank. Basically, when he started, the manager was just a little too free with his spending and didn't make his monthly loan payments a top priority. His boss wrote a letter saying that having the manager of a bank branch at the top of a list of unpaid loans was an embarrassment. If he wanted to keep his job, he better make sure that his name never appeared on that report again. He was supposed to sort out his financial affairs, but the manager said he interpreted the instruction literally and simply stopped including his own name. It took years before anyone noticed. In the end, the investigation found no other signs of record tampering or financial crime. No one really believed that he actually thought what he was doing was allowed, but the whole thing was just ambiguous enough to give plausible deniability. By the point everything was discovered, the manager had his finances in good order, and he was pretty close to retirement. The whole thing was just sort of waved away as being more trouble than it was worth to deal with, and the manager didn't see any real repercussions. Is that like back in school when my parents told me they didn't want me bringing home any more report cards that had really bad grades on them? So I just stopped bringing home the report cards? I mean, yes, it spectacularly backfired on me, but for the time, it was what they wanted. This next story comes to us from Anarchy Palindrome. Love it. Sorry, I'm not PC manufacturer support. Please stop calling. Let's jump right in. To start off, this isn't my story, but a friend of a friend's. I'm telling it as I remember it, so I don't have specific details, but I'll provide as much as I can. About 15 years ago, a relatively large PC manufacturer, who I will not name for the sake of protecting identities, offered Windows OS support in addition to hardware support for their PCs. Well, in the state of Utah at the time, the predominant area code for phone numbers started 801. About 2 to 3 times a month, someone would somehow transpose the 1-800 portion of the support line and punch in 1-801 instead. This friend's phone number was identical to theirs, the difference being the toll-free area code versus the local area code. 99% of the time he'd tell them, yeah, you need to dial the 800 number, you dialed 801. They'd understand, apologize, and hang up. Well, one older guy who hated himself, humanity, the neighbor's dog, Wednesdays, etc., called him and rather than accepting his error, just pressed redial on his phone. Each time he called, he would become more agitated and escalated with insults, general douchebaggery, and demanding help with his operating system. Finally, after a few calls, the friend had enough, recognized the number calling through, and answered, "Hi, PC manufacturer support, how may I assist you?" Yeah, first of all, some jackbutt kept hanging up on me and wouldn't fix my computer. I want him fired. Oh, certainly. I'll personally make sure he does not work for PC manufacturer as soon as this call is completed. What can I assist you with today? The old man screamed through the phone. Side note, it's worth mentioning, this friend of a friend was a PC hobbyist and knew his way around PCs quite well. He just didn't want to do customer service for the company for free. But in this moment, he just snapped. The troubleshooting steps I'm about to list below should never be performed by anyone. Okay, so I know what this issue is, and there is a really easy way to resolve this. First things first, I need you to navigate to My Computer. Okay, now you should see something in there that says Local Disk, and in parenthesis, a capitalized C. Please click on that. Once that loads up, you'll want to locate a folder labeled Windows, and inside that folder, open another one labeled System32. Excellent. Now, this is a known issue that happens sometimes. Do you see anything labeled kernel in there? You do? Okay, so if you have too many of those, it will slow down your computer. Just select all of those and delete them. It may prompt you for an administrator password. That's just your normal password to log into your computer. Okay, those are all gone? Perfect. Now please restart your PC. Click. He immediately turned off his cell phone and left it off for about 6 hours. When he turned it back on, he had about 15 minutes of voicemails to listen to, and I've been told they were quite humorous, a bit graphic, and a couple got racist. If you read this far, thanks. If not, that's cool too. Have the day you deserve. OOP, your friend just did what everybody working tech support wants to do when they get a customer like that, but they can't do it because they might lose their job. In the end, I'd say that customer got exactly what they deserved. Check out all 5 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.